or on a shelf. There's 1,000 things you can make yourself. Make party spreads, great cabbage heads. Blend the meatloaf for a family of 8. Make ice-cold drinks you'll appreciate. Now's the time.
Oh no, I'm trapped by the apes. What kind of place is this where apes are the ruling class? What are they going to do with me?
We have done it all so far, and now we get to mix and mash it up. That's right. The last part of ds106 is remix and mashups. It gets crazy. What these things really are, well, it may seem really confusing.
I can turn you into a cake baker and a cookie maker.
Mixer, buddy. Cement mixer, buddy. Cement mixer, buddy. A buddy booty, a buddy booty. Hey.
You'll cross up media and characters. Make new things from other parts.
All you do is take boiling water, add milk, and then gently stir in dead, pure potato flakes.
About the money, don't try to save. Hot says go. Have a time for the Saturday night, baby, how feel fine.
But what good is spending a lot of money if your records don't sound good because of dust and static electricity?
Take that! What strange planet can I be on?
And likely trip up on issues of copyright. All right. Thanks to Kevin MacLeod and the Incompetech Orchestra. Welcome to the ds106 show. I am your host, Alan Levine. I am coming to you from the past, actually. I'm usually coming to you from 1964, but I've transported myself this week to the mid-'70s. I'm actually on Hawaii because later this afternoon I'm talking to another group from an online conference about that comes from Hawaii about ds106. But the show's not about me. The show's about the folks that are here. So every week I run these Hangouts, and I invite some friends in, like Mikhail and Jonathan, to sort of talk about the topics we're working on this week. And then my students join me, although it's sort of a requirement. But they have to come in once a semester and help us join, talk about the week's topic, which is this week we're into the 2-week stretch of remix and mashups. So I'm going to ask Brooke, who's got like 5 icons here, to tell us, just introduce yourself and maybe give a little snapshot overview about your ds106 experience so far.
Well, I'm Brooke. I'm a senior, and so far I've been having things I do when I'm trying to procrastinate. So far I've been having fun, especially with the last couple ones. Starting with our radio show was a lot of fun. I like the video week as well because that's what I'm used to. So
okay, yeah. And you from the beginning like loaded your weekly reflections with animated GIFs. I love those.
Yeah,
I've seen those.
I used to do Tumblr a lot, so I've collected a lot.
Yeah. So in terms of like, and first I have to say your blog is just beautiful. I love the theme that you've gone with, and it's a lot of fun. And your writing is just magnificent for the work that you do.
Thanks.
What sort of things have you gotten out of the class that maybe you didn't expect?
I've gotten a lot of learning how to work with blog sites differently. I'm so used to doing class blog sites where it's like academic writing, so that's helped me a lot. Definitely the sounds, the audio weeks, I'm not used to that, so that was interesting, especially for some other stuff I was doing for other classes. So that's what I enjoyed. I've gotten some skills.
So you've been able to put that sound editing experience to use elsewhere, it sounds like. And let me turn it over to Micaela, who's now in the middle of the pack, at least on my screen.
Oh, yeah, mine too.
Hello, welcome to the show.
Thanks. This is cool. I didn't know you could do this. I usually try Skype, but on Skype you need a premium account to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, and the nice thing is you'll notice that the camera switches to whoever is making noise at the time, so it becomes almost more conversational.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of people here, so that's nice too.
Yeah, well, you get a chance to meet him. You're on the show. So how's ds106 been for you?
ds106 has definitely taught me a lot more about computers. I was definitely the kind of person who would get on my computer and really only use, like photo booth and Facebook, basically. I guess I never really got a use out of my computer. I think the biggest thing that probably I learned from was probably Audacity. I not necessarily liked it, but I definitely learned like the most from my computer than that. My favorite so far has definitely been Video Week, though. I loved Video Week. It was honestly my favorite, especially using iMovie. That made it a lot of fun.
That's good to hear, because the video is probably the most intensive thing that we have to do. I know Brooke's post kind of reflected on how much time like one small assignment can take if you get really wrapped up into it.
Oh yeah, but it goes by so fast. The other night I started an assignment. I did the music video one, and I was like, oh, it's only gonna take an hour or two. I ended up staying until 4 in the morning, I think, working on it, but I couldn't even tell. It was honestly the funnest thing I'd ever done, and I felt so proud afterwards. It was so rewarding.
All right, wow, you're making me so happy, and you don't have to say all nice things because I'm here, because this has nothing to do with your grade.
No. Believe me, I could audio week. No, never. I'd be okay if we never did audio week. I never had to go through that again. It just happened that this past 2 weeks were just the best ones so far in the class for me.
That's good. And then I think you really like Remix. And then let's say hello to Nancy, who's in here, who comes almost every week. How you doing, Nancy?
Good. I'm on my Chromebook. Yay. Which I've learned is not good for Video Week.
Oh.
Because it doesn't have a video editor. My Mac turned into a desktop last week.
Okay. But it's still workable.
It's still workable sometimes.
Okay. Well, we had several, at least 1 or 2 other computer desks. Jasmine's. We actually turned that into an assignment, I think.
Yeah.
There's a funeral for her computer, and but I guess it's been revitalized. And now I want to say hello and maybe get him to say a few things from my friend and colleague Mikhail from New York City. How's it going?
Hey
Mikhail?
guys, how's it going?
Hey.
I wasn't technically invited. I just kind of dropped in.
We like drop-ins.
I do. What can I offer, Alan?
I know this is the week we're talking about Remix, and I think we'll get in a little conversation about maybe just what Remix is, because it seems like something that's understandable, but there's a lot of different issues where you talk about not only what is Remix, and the whole thing was Remix versus Mashup, but some of the issues that you come into of reusing other people's work. So I think we'll come around to that, but I want to give a chance for the man of the hour, Jonathan Worth, who's coming to us from 9:30 p.m. London time, who is a colleague who Jonathan teaches several open courses in photography at Coventry University, and we've kind of become kind of fellow travelers in this kind of wacky world of the way we teach online. So hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Alan. Yes, coming to you from the future. 8 hours into the future. That joke never gets old, does it?
No, you could use it every day.
Do you know? I almost do. I almost whenever I come online, it's a delight. Yeah, and yeah. So what are we going to talk about then? We're going to talk about remixing and things like that.
Tell us a little bit about your background though, because you're kind of an interesting guy.
So I'm a photographer, as you said, though I find myself teaching more these days. But I guess the route for me into this conversation is, that I was a photographer who made a living by not allowing people to remix this work. And I've kind of changed the way that I work completely now. So, it used to be that the only way I could make a living was to sell pictures exclusively to magazines, and then I'd rely on people buying the magazines in order to get paid. And that situation's changed now, and made me rethink exactly what it is that I do. When suddenly it is, in fact, that I have other things to offer. I have to try and work those things out. So that's kind of where I am, and so I do every now and then I do these sort of trials where I try and do something that seems horribly painful, and see if it really does break everything. And if it doesn't break everything, then I see what I can learn from it. And so far, that's kind of worked for me. So This is what we're going to do today. We're going to do something that's horribly painful.
Definitely. We'll get to the pain in a second. So, any students want to jump in? Like, do you have a concept of what we mean by remix or mashup?
No. I think it's like what we did like 2 weeks ago with design. Like I keep thinking of the thing I did with Reddit a couple weeks ago.
Say more.
Like where we did Reddit.
Yeah. Yeah, the web story thing where you actually changed up the content of a site. Could probably be seen as remix, and I know Mikhail can probably jump in with a lot of the music history part of it, but that's where a lot of the whole concepts come from. The idea about musicians who started instead of sitting down and writing songs in their entirety, they started sampling and taking bits of other songs and mixing them together to make something new. And often a lot of the great remixes combine things that you don't expect to be together. So in music, they're looking for interesting beats and patterns and genres to mix together. In movies, some of the things we've done might be considered remixes, where you take maybe the sound of one movie and put the audio track from a different thing on top of it. Again, you're borrowing from content that exists, which kind of gets us into the fishy waters of copyright, which we'll put aside for a second. But the whole idea is, how can you take content that exists and reassemble it in ways that are interesting and compelling? At least that's sort of my flavor.
And into an original work, right? Something that's distinguishable as an original work.
Yeah, and that line is not clear where it is, right?
Right. Well, music was what's interesting is the way that I started to engage remix in music was actually through the kind of the appropriation in rock and roll of blues. And if you think about bands like Led Zeppelin or the Rolling Stones, they're pretty much playing American blues, but kind of, I don't want to say remix because it's not really remix, but kind of adapted to a different purpose. And what's interesting is that when people learn about the fact that say Led Zeppelin pretty much stole their entire shtick from American blues artists, people immediately start kind of saying, well, they're not really original. But I actually think that on the contrary, what makes it so fascinating and so compelling is they took something old and made something very, very new and in that sense modern, right? Because with they sort of updated blues in an interesting way, and that's completely original. Even though a lot of the songs that you hear Led Zeppelin play are actually covers that you didn't know were covers. And they're not technically covers because they adapt them in various ways, but that's how I engage the idea of remixes, through the appropriation of blues.
Right, and the way I usually think about it, remix is the idea about like you're taking different song bits and reassembling them, so it's all music that you're putting together. When you talk about mashup, you're talking about putting together two different forms of media and mashing them up into one thing, and they're pretty closely related, and I don't really care whether there's a difference or not. We're still dealing with the creation of something new from existing content.
Can you say, Alan, that all mashups are remixes, but not all remixes are mashups?
Oh God, this makes me dizzy. I hate definitions.
I think that's actually a useful distinction in the sense that a remix is not necessarily a mashup, whereas a mashup takes two disparate works and puts them together in a way that creates a new work, whereas a remix could be all kinds of different stuff, kind of changed and moved around and remixed almost in the literal sense.
Yeah, I could go with that. I want to just point out for students that, I've asked you to look at a couple resources this week. So one of the best ones I think is Kirby Ferguson's Everything is a Remix series. So it's 4 parts. They're about 10 minutes each.
Yeah, he talks about Zeppelin too, actually.
He talks about Zeppelin. He talks about the music industry, and he talks about the technology industry, and he talks about the invention. But it's really kind of challenging this idea about things happening like alone without any influence. So, one of the things that you'll come across is like there's people that have analyzed Star Wars and compared it side by side with science fiction movie clips from 60 years ago, and you can find almost the same shots done in many different films. So all of us are influenced by what comes before us. So Everything is a Remix is a great resource. I just found one yesterday that Tim Owens sent me from this guy, Andy Bio. It's called The New Prohibition. 30-minute video I just watched yesterday. It's fascinating. He had this project where he basically reinterpreted Miles Davis's jazz song and did it completely as covers with a video music genre. So it's kind of goofy cover. But what he got in trouble with, a copyright letter from the derivative image he did of the photograph from one of Miles Davis's famous covers. And he's got a really strong message about the idea about what fair use means. And a lot of people think that's like a law or it's an umbrella. And for my students, and maybe I'll hear from you, I think some of you have already had some copyright things happen on YouTube,
I have.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your first reaction?
Crap.
Was
I was like, what do I do? I sent you a tweet immediately because I didn't think it would happen.
Because?
I guess I'm a student and I didn't think that would happen. And I mean, I know copyright happens because I've been an RPer for a while and we get takedown notices and stuff for various reasons. But I'd never gotten one for a video or anything. So I actually fought it and said it was fair use, and I got it's back on YouTube.
Wow, that's good to hear that you did that.
Nice. Oh my gosh.
Well, it was automatically caught.
Well, that's what's happening. It's not like someone is actually noticing that and like sitting down and writing your letter. It's an automated system called Content ID that's pretty sophisticated that can recognize patterns of music and video. And more or less, it alerts the copyright holders, and they can automatically, they have their own system set up to whether they do takedowns, whether they just do notifications. It really varies. And it feels strange because it's like, wait a minute, I got this from YouTube, right?
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know. I was devastated when I saw mine just because I put in so much effort. And I thought I made it pretty original. So I was pretty upset when I saw it because I didn't even get a chance to air it. And I didn't end up fighting mine. I just posted on Vimeo. But it was still, I mean, it's frustrating because I guess I was pretty naive, and I thought if you put like a disclaimer, they wouldn't take offense. But I guess I didn't realize they had an automated system either.
Yeah, they're not reading your captions. And in fact, what Andy talks about in this video is there's a whole raft of people who put these statements on their YouTube videos like no copyright infringement intended, and they think it's like a magic spell. And there is no magic spell. And he actually underscores there's kind of a legal industry that basically tries, it's a way of making money for some people, is they can actually send out in mass amounts these cease and desist letters, and it's more expensive to take something like that to court than to settle out of court. And he ended up settling out of court, for like $30,000.
Well, it's actually an interesting strategy that a lot of companies use, because so let's say you use something that you don't have the copyright holder, and you claim fair use, and you may have a total case. It may be fair use, but yet what they'll do is they'll take you to court because it'll cost you a lot of money to fight it. So at the end of it could be like, yeah, absolutely, you're right, this is fair use, but you just spent $30,000 on legal fees. Right, so a lot of times folks will sort of drop their case, even though they probably have a good case for fair use. They just don't want to lose all this money. And that's actually what the kind of blue guy, kind of bloop, actually.
Yeah.
That's what he talks about in the post that Alan mentioned. But another resource I want to mention real fast is RIP, a Remix Manifesto by Laurent LaSalle, which is about 3 years old, but it's really, really interesting, and it brings to light a lot of the issues that are implicit in this. And also there's another really interesting video called A Fairy Use Tale by Eric Faden, which addresses some of these issues by using nothing but clips from Disney movies.
Oh, I watched that one. That one was great.
That's awesome.
Isn't that brilliant? And the whole irony of it being Disney, who is like fought to extend copyright, for eternity.
One quick note about Eric Faden. He is probably one of the very few faculty members who got tenure based solely on his video work. And this is one of the videos that got it for him.
Well, obviously well earned. And I want to add that next week our guest is going to be Brett Gaylor, who is the producer of Remix Manifesto. So,
awesome.
Yeah, he will have a lot that's basically looking at girl talk and sort of the whole ethos and idea behind the remix culture and how it's played out in girl talk's music, which just blatantly samples so many things. It's like, where would you even start to litigate against something like that?
I found something really interesting when I watch a lot of musicals, and when I was looking for clips online, I'd find a lot on YouTube of like the stage versions, but not the movie versions of stuff. And I know in theater, a lot of the copyright holders go after amateur productions for putting their videos online.
Yeah.
But I was surprised I was able to find that more easily than the movie stuff.
Yeah. And also, I haven't talked a lot about it. I mean, looking for like older footage, archival stuff, the Internet Archive is a great resource that's out there for you to use. So that's good stuff. I want to give Jonathan a chance to maybe talk about maybe some of your copyright stories and maybe the way you talked about kind of changing your opinion as a professional photographer, what the business means for you.
Yeah. Do you talk about Creative Commons and the Creative Commons search and so on?
We do a little bit. I didn't actually stress it in the beginning of the course. What I found was when we used to introduce Creative Commons in about week 3, and students would sort of like not understand it, and then I'd ask them like to sort of figure out what they want, figure out where they stand on that. So I've been thinking I want to wait till more towards the latter end of the course where students have had the experience of looking for media and dealing with some of this copyright to talk about Creative Commons, which is basically a system that's been set up to more or less mark your work and say it's still copyrighted, like I own it, like it's my work, but I give you the freedom to use it in any way you see fit without you having to ask and without any risk of being sued. So all my Flickr photos that I post have a Creative Commons license because I think there's more value I get by sharing it than by not sharing it.
So there you go. So you just described everything I was going to say.
But not as eloquently, Jonathan.
In as much as, so Joey Ito describes Creative Commons as a user interface that sits on top of all rights reserved. So it's not instead of all rights reserved, because you still have that underneath, but you just plops on top of it. And then you have these controls that you can play with. So you can kind of, you can relinquish most of the rights to it. You retain attribution. That's the freest license that you can use, which means that you have to say who made it. When you rip that off, then the kind of sharing economy just really falls apart. But then there are versions of license that you can use, which become more and more restrictive, depending on how you sort of think about them. But I mean, just to pick up on that thing about this being, I think you mentioned the word value. That all rights reserved was all that I used, and I used to be the person that would write letters to people who were using my images, and I would say, you just take them down, and I was the bully. I was the bully, and I never went as far as suing anyone. I was always terrified of being sued, and but I was the person that would send out those letters, and to people, to 14-year-old girls who were using my images on their fan sites, right? Now, there came a point when I realized that just it just wasn't working. I couldn't send out enough emails, and I was scaring people that I actually really got on well with when we began to talk. They were just huge fans of these people, and it turns out that in fact they were gathering together and sharing these images with other fans. And so what the value was of my work kind of began to change, and I didn't have this sort of epiphanous moment overnight. It happened. I'm actually building this narrative now in retrospect, because I've come to this understanding of why I suddenly changed what I was doing. So the value stopped being the exclusive showing of the image in a magazine or something, and it became in fact the network. It became this link, this pathway into a bunch of people that were super into this person that I was the connection to, if you will. So that could be a writer, just as it could be a rock star, as it could be an actor. And so what a Creative Commons license enabled me to do was it enabled me to leverage the geek. It enabled me to get the person who's super into whatever character it is, whatever actor or musician or whoever, and to let them put it on their blog and then tell all their friends about it. But the Creative Commons license enabled me to sort of say, still say, this is where it came from. You've got to go back to Jonathan Worth in order to find where more of these are. So for me, that's stumbling across Creative Commons, and the fact that it's written in human English rather than something that's just lawyer speak, really was a kind of a game changer for me. And it's definitely not going to be right for everyone, but for me that was kind of just made sense. And it's made me understand that there are a whole raft of things that I can do and monetize beyond the exclusive first sale of the print. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It's almost like the musicians who've realized that trying to control the distribution of their digital music is impossible, but the way they make money is concerts and T-shirts and the other things that surround the performance part of it.
I think that bit's relevant for that. I mean, this idea of our product being the mode of information being bundled up with a mode of delivery, that's kind of confusing for a lot of us to sort of realize that in fact we may have something beyond the mode of delivery. So it turns out that I make photographs, but my business model was built around the sale of magazines. And so what you're describing there is a musician whose business model is perhaps built around the mode of delivery, which was the CD. And it turns out that that's not the only product that they have, as you rightly point out. But I think even that is going to be way too simplistic. As we work out all the different things that let's in the case of the photographer, the image offers us as opposed to the print. So last century was about the print, the photograph, and the print looks backwards. It has a provenance. It has to some people that's going to be really valuable. Only one person can hold it, and one person can look at it at once in one place. And I pass it on to you, and it's got my signature on the back. Whereas the image is this century, and the image kind of looks out, and it brings us all sorts of new opportunities. It connects me to these geeks who connect me to super geeks who want to who want to buy, stuff that who value stuff that no one else does. So I think, that's the kind of really exciting moment that we find ourselves at. Creative Commons licenses is a stepping stone to be able to really understand all the different things that we can pick apart there and play with, which is kind of where we come to today on the remix.
Yeah, but even the
whole... Am I going off on one?
No. But you're there. No, you're good. The systems that are still in place, the holders to produce films and music are still in some ways trying to hold on to the control of distribution, and that's why we have this content ID system. Maybe for the students, when I used to ask my students about sharing their work, they were like, no, I don't want anybody using my pictures, or someone's going to take my thing X and make money off of it, or just steal it from me. And so that's why I kind of shied away, because I think you need an experience, and maybe you can comment on this, of like looking for stuff and finding that, wow, like there's a lot of stuff out there. But maybe not being too sure whether there's any outcome of you actually like taking a movie clip and using it, or taking a popular song, because it's still a question of it is owned by someone who created it, but our systems for sharing are not quite there.
No, this is the thing, but we did inherit a sort of we did inherit the tools to deal with written stuff. I mean, that's when we think about, we have talked about this, when we think about the invention of the printing press, when everyone suddenly learned to read, and it led to a period known as the Reformation, and we know to a period we now refer to as the Enlightenment. People learned to read, but they also learned to write, and they learned all these rules about writing. So when your students sort of write stuff, I expect they're taught not to plagiarize, right? I mean, that's don't copy, right? But if you do copy, then just let us know where it came from, quote it. That's fine. You need to reference stuff, you need to quote on it. As I've heard science fiction writers describe, that it's appropriate to build on, what do they say, to stand on the shoulders of giants. Is that what they say? I don't know. That's appropriate. But we don't have that sort of we don't have that structure yet for media. Not really, we don't have a media literacy is something we're all sort of stumbling around trying to sort of frame, but we're trying to frame it with a lexicon that really wasn't kind of built for us. So I think it's really, it's okay to say I'm a bit lost, I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Come in.
And I think it's entirely appropriate as well for us to call out the bullies and say, what, that's not on, as well.
So let's talk about the project, because that's why I really wanted you to come here, is to talk about this project we're dreaming up that we're going to unleash on at least 3 people in the room right this week.
Yeah, this is it's just going to rapidly snowball. So so if we so basically this is the second trial that I've done with the science fiction writer Cory Doctorow, and the first trial involved understanding this idea of the generative artifact. Kevin Kelly talks about a generative artifact, something that has to be generated in order to be experienced. And the root of that is, as I was looking at all my images going online, I couldn't control the supply anymore, and I lost track of the fact that the print is very different to the image. I didn't get it at that point. And so that first experiment was about making a set of prints that were all exactly the same, but then numbering them 1 to 100 or whatever it was, and then putting a digital version available for a free download and seeing if anyone would buy them. Now the key thing here is who anyone was, because I was able to go directly to the super geeks that were into the pictures of Cory. They were into Cory. And so they bought them all. These prints were all, as I say, these were priced as well, very expensive to very, very cheap, and then ultimately free for the digital one. So what it sort of taught me there was that the artifact there is, if the internet enabled you to sort of reach a discerning audience, and if you want to reach you can reach these key people that will value the artifact. They'll value the provenance of the artifact, and so then that was great, because I was able to monetize that and enabled me to to find another aspect of what I do that can still point to a sustainable practice. And so this project now, this kind of is born out of the open classes a little bit. So the open classes, as I became a teacher, as you find, Alan, you make the classes open and say, well, anyone can do this stuff, anyone can sort of join the class and come along. What you find is it's very difficult to actually get people to come through the door, to get people to join in, to get people to think to kind of what they think is kind of steal the stuff. But of course, it's there to be used, and this is not about stealing. So it's one of our jobs is to teach people it's okay to come in and join in without paying anything. It's okay to be there and using this stuff. And very often we want people to remix, adapt, or adopt what we've done before. In fact, what we want people to do is to improve on it. I mean, for an example is, so the last class that I ran last year was photography and narrative phonar, and at one point we still have, I think it's close to 70 professors from around the world that have editing rights on the program. That means they can see the back end of the program, and they can see why the lessons are designed and why they're running there, and they can change them. They can put better ideas in if they want to. But the irony was that only 2 people out of the 70 actually got in there and threw new stuff in. So it's very difficult sometimes to change this habit of actually using stuff, of remixing it, of building on top of it. So that's what this project is about. This project is about taking what I do, taking a photograph, and asking people to remix it, to build it, to make it better.
Let me just ask the students: are you familiar with Cory Doctorow? He's a science fiction writer.
No.
Yeah, I put, it's okay. I put his link in there. The thing that's really fascinating about him is he too, as an author in an old field of publishing, has tried to reinvent the way he distributes his books. So all of his books are released electronically under Creative Commons. So you can download them as PDFs and other file formats. And the idea that people will get hooked onto his writing so much that eventually they're going to go out and buy a real book. So he's trying to reinvent sort of his publishing business. So that's why it's rather appropriate for the remix project that we're going to talk about. So I'm not telling you to go out and read his books right now, but look him up on Wikipedia. His books are actually pretty quick to read, and a really good one to start with is called Little Brother, and they usually have some flavor of sort of like technology and cyberculture. I'm reading one called For the Win, which is kind of a whole kind of look inside of the whole the gaming industry, how they have these people in World of Warcraft who are basically there's a business of gold mining and generating things within a game experience to generate money. But just want to set you up that Cory's actually a very well-known and popular photographer. He runs a site called...
He's not a photographer, he's a writer.
Yeah, he runs Boing Boing, which is sort of a site that publishes a lot of the the crazy and fun things that are out there on the net. So we're kind of using him as a subject for this remix project.
And everyone should definitely go and read his books. Just melt your mind. They're awesome.
I think your mic...
Is that coming out?
Your mic just got kind of garbled.
No. With so much bandwidth, how frustrating. Can you hear me now?
No.
Oh, that's nice.
No, he does.
He sounds like a Dalek. Maybe that's not a bad thing. We'll give Jonathan a chance to fiddle with the mic. He always does. So he's gonna fiddle with the microphone. He's gonna probably log out and come back. So I'll try to summarize what I think we're doing, and Jonathan will come back and explain it. So Jonathan's like a professional photographer. So he's taken a series of high-resolution...
Sorry.
That's okay. It happens. He's taken a series of high-resolution portrait photographs of Cory, and basically the premise is he's back.
Can you hear me?
Beautifully. Yes. No longer a Dalek. So I was explaining that you basically took the series of high-res photographs, and that's as far as I got.
Yeah, so I took I put another portrait of Cory, and they're big old square film images, and I've scanned them big, and I've uploaded them to an Amazon cloud, and I've put a bunch on there that are just raw scans, and then I've put some on there that I've kind of tweaked and played around with, and I've put one on there that I really like. So one on there is kind of as good as I'm going to get it, and the rest I'm asking everyone else to make better, to remix, to make into new things that I haven't thought of, and then to make your own version of it, your own sort of artifact. And that might be that you take a bunch of pictures and you make a little GIF out of it. It may be that you cut something out and slap it into a film. It may be that you make a sculpture out of it. It may be that you just it may be that you're just better at Photoshop than I am, and that you just you mess around with the look of it. I don't know. You might embroider it, for goodness sake, or applique it onto a curtain, or perhaps project it onto the side of a wall and photograph the side of the wall. It doesn't matter. But the idea is that when I put this out to Cory's fans from his blog, Boing Boing has a huge following. So when I start to tweet it and Cory begins to mention it, then we think we may get quite a big bit of uptake. And I've also asked a really good painter to do a painting of it or to remix it with his stuff. And I've asked a really nice illustrator as well to do a remix of it. So I'm hoping that we'll get some great work in there, and I'm hoping that people are going to point to stuff that I just haven't thought of.
Right. So for my students, I mean, part of it's just going to be, we're going to be setting up a website next day or two that's going to have like previews of all these images. The idea about them being high resolution, meaning that they're big files, is that ultimately, you know, the selected winning photos make it be turned into a real art project. So it needs to be originally done sort of with a lot of detail, but we want you to sort of share a preview of it, like a smaller resolution of whatever you create as part of your blog, your assignment for this class. So a piece was just figuring out, what am I going to do with this guy's face that's interesting? So it's a portrait photograph, and this is remix. So, you know, you can put him, like, you can put his head on a donkey, or you can put him in a different context, or you can do like a mosaic or collage. You know, what you do with the image is really wide open to the interpretation. And like most things in ds106, that's really what I'm interested in seeing, is how you kind of approach the thing, less to the ultimate degree in which you're able to produce it.
Yeah, I'd echo that as well.
Yeah, and I see Amber's out there, but she's got no camera, so everybody say hello, Amber.
Hello, Amber.
I think she's in the text area.
Gosh, I got it to work. The camera's a bit busted now. I don't know why.
It's kind of dark. Are you in your closet?
No, my
Oh, she's probably on the school network.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know that pain right now. This keeps quitting on me.
Yeah, all the students are dealing with a really poor campus network, Jonathan. So
we did make a motion at Senate that they don't like spend money on anything until they fix the internet.
And how'd that go over?
It passed Senate, and I think it passed exec cab.
Yeah.
We don't think the administration is going to be too happy with it, though.
Yeah. So for my students, I mean, do you have any questions about what Jonathan and I have been talking about? Because we've been sort of monopolizing the microphone.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Or no, I wanted you really to be able to explain the project, because we're kind of making some of it up as we go, but we have an idea where we want it to go. Or just in general, the idea about some of the remix assignments this week, because it is kind of a long list I gave you.
Well, I'm looking at it now, but I don't know if this usually happens with Google Hangout, but it makes the rest of my computer go pretty slow.
It can, yeah, the video part is probably going to hog a lot of your computer's frame cycle.
Is it possible to just clarify once more about the project and just sort of like the basis of it? Because I mean,
Sure.
I read it and I reread it, but
Sure, absolutely fair. So, I mean, your project is again sort of to put together different pieces of media to tell a story as openly and broadly as that can be. So, I've asked you to sort of decide on a certain character who you want to be the subject of your story. So it can be a real, it can be a celebrity, it can even be Taylor Swift, it can be a book character, it can be a stuffed animal, it can be you know, a historical figure. But I sort of want you to work around sort of a certain character, and then your story is going to be something that happens to them or something that they do. And the way you're going to construct it is to go through the ds106 assignment bank and figure out what is something design-wise I can do about my character. So if I'm going to do something on Winnie the Pooh, and my story is about how Winnie the Pooh goes on a bus trip to New York City, I might design like a travel poster for Winnie the Pooh.
okay.
And then I might do something audio related. I might do like a 5-sound story. So you're creating bits of media, and then your ultimate story is going to be something that you publish as a blog post that has the media with it, but also some sort of text around it to sort of link the pieces together.
Okay, so it's not okay. I think what I thought before was that you take someone else's media and make something of it. You create new media.
It's all new media. Yeah, you're basically
okay.
you're gonna do about 4 or 5 assignments with one sort of common topic or theme, which is the character or where they go or what happens to them.
Yeah.
Can it be various? I like posted my idea. Can it be like various iterations? Like, could I do NPH across like all of his NPH roles? Because he's been NPH in like Harold and Kumar, and that's different than NPH on Twitter and NPH Puppet Dreams.
That's fine, because I don't even know who NPH is.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Harris, yeah.
I live in a cave, okay? I live in the past.
Who is NPH? Is this the young person?
Neil Patrick Harris.
He was Dougie Hauser.
Young person, right?
Not really. He's got babies.
So
really?
you want to do
young fertile person?
Yeah, you want to do it about the actor himself, and
but he plays himself as a character. It's really weird.
Yeah, as basically it's pretty wide open, Nancy. So I mean, the character you have, and whatever narrative you want to construct as to what happens. Maybe it's his sort of like dealing with his identity crisis, or him getting involved with some other character. I mean, whatever you want to place him into. I mean, the whole story again is you got a person, they get into a situation or they're exposed to something they didn't expect. They have some experience, and the story is the tale of that experience and where it goes and where it takes them. And
Where? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where are constraints? Like, where do we? What are the do not do's in this assignment? Like, what do you? Are there certain like qualifications you want us to meet?
Well, do not do anything boring.
Yeah.
And really, don't like kill yourself trying to get this done. I mean, it is during finals week, and so I listed a link to some of the stories that my students did last semester. Some of them just did like, here's my 5 assignments, and it was about a theme, but they didn't really connect the pieces into a coherent story. Some of them mixed them talking about them making the media instead of actually, that's a separate blog post where you talk about how you made each of the things. But really beyond that, the one about Tony did sort of a story about a rogue pirate Santa Claus, and so there was a wanted poster and there was an audio, and it was silly. I mean, basically, it's like
Awesome.
Santa Claus is a distributor of copyright material, so he ended up getting busted for it. And it could be that simple. So if it's
I need to look at this.
it's pretty funny, and Tony did a really nice job on it. And so for Neil Patrick Harris, it could be like it could just be his adventure in shopping at Walmart, and that could be the story about what happens to him when he goes to Walmart, which would have some elements of maybe design or video or remix. You make a poster about it. So does that help at all, Micaela? I don't really
No, that was a definite clarification. I guess the biggest thing was that I don't have to use other people's media.
No. Basically, you're doing assignments. Once you decide, about that, my character might be the dog from 101 Dalmatians. So once I've decided that character, I'm going to do a visual assignment about it, maybe an animated GIF, maybe I'll do an audio montage, maybe I'll do a music video, etc. So what I'm really looking for is that you're at least doing 3 different types of media, and at least 5 different things that you're creating for it is about the parameters.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that help? And Amber's out there who's mute, and I was talking about the final project, Amber. The character story.
Oh shoot, I haven't given that any thought yet.
It's like due Friday.
Well, Friday I want to Friday I just want to hear your idea, so I can give you a little bit of direction on it.
Oh shoot.
Okay, we'll save that for Thursday night or Friday night. The reason I'm making it due Friday is I don't want you guys get to be at the last week and sitting down to do this and saying, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" So the sooner you can get started with at least a plan, at least it's in your mind and you can think about it.
Yeah, I know. I like
Can
that.
we change it?
That's due. Huh?
Are we allowed to modify our plan if
Absolutely.
we find something that? Okay.
Absolutely. I just want to, like, see what you were thinking up to that point, and I will send you some commentary. And you're not locked into that. If you decide, I've had students change it. I had a student who changed it like the last day of finals week, and she actually came up with something pretty good. But it's a lot less stress if you think this ahead of time. And I mean, because Jonathan's here, do you guys have an understanding about what we're asking you to do with the remix of the photograph project?
Not really.
Yeah, no.
That's perfectly fair, right? You gotta speak up and say you don't understand, man. I can't read your mind. I understand it because I've been talking about it.
So you don't have to do it. That's the first thing sort of to make clear.
Actually, they do. It's their assignment.
Does it? Oh, excellent. And you have to do it. Hooray!
No.
Yeah. So you just take these pictures that I've made and you mess about with them. Pretty much that's it. But the deal is that you make them better than I did. And that's pretty easy because there's some there that are just raw, as in they're just rough scans with terrible colors. And you just can do anything you want with them. I'd urge you to do a bit of background reading so that the stuff that you do is kind of relevant. Because the guy is genuinely interesting. Cory Doctorow's, he's super relevant for what you're doing right now. And as I say, his books will just fry your brains. They're basically digital literacy lessons that are wrapped around an amazing story. And I just can't put them down. And okay, so I'm old, but my daughter can't put them down either. And judging by the enormous fan base that he has, and it's we're talking hundreds of thousands of people that follow him around on Twitter and so on. He must be doing something right. So read a bit of one of his books. You can download them for free from his site. You don't have to buy them. And have a think. And just see what inspires you. Yeah, and then you can download these pictures and you can just print them out. They'd be like a meter by a meter if you want one really big, or chop them up and make something new.
Yeah, and
is that any clearer?
And it could be as simple as doing something digitally with the image, which is kind of like a first cut at every remix. It could be doing something that's actually physical. Maybe you print some out and rip them up and do the I always forget the name of the was it David Hockney sort of style where you actually reassemble fragments of photographs into a collage. You can put them in a different context, but just do something interesting with this guy's portrait. And again, which the thing that's out there is if ultimately these are going to get submitted somewhere if you want to submit your work, and Cory Doctorow and Jonathan are going to look at them, and the best ones are going to get produced into a piece of art that will actually be sold, from which, if yours is selected, you will make money. You will make money.
What? Huh?
Amber,
right?
Amber's
the deal
ambitious.
The deal is that all this stuff, actually, you can apply all these ideas that you're learning. All this stuff is, the genius, the point of doing this is to try and get to do this stuff for the rest of your life. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, it's trying to find a way to do stuff that you really love and get people to pay you to do it. And so, if you can make something really cool, then Cory likes it and it gets picked. Then if you've made another photo version, we're going to print that photo version out. And if you've painted it, then we're going to get that painting. We're going to get that and exhibit it. And as Alan says, they're all going to be sold. And it'll be divided up. Once the costs of production are taken out, then the proceeds will be divided up. And so we're going to see if we can make us some money, for sure. But here's the kicker is that I'm allowing you to remix my work, and I'm using a license, a Creative Commons license, that enables you to do that freely and legally. You can make versions of this work, and you can sell them legally. You don't have to come back to this project if you don't want to. But in order to be a part of this project, then you have to license it in the same way. So you have to do something and enable someone else to remix what you've done. So let's say, for instance, you see my black and white portrait of Cory's head, and you think, right, that's okay, but I'm gonna colorize it. I'm gonna paint it. And you do that, and then someone else sees it and they say, wow, that's amazing. I'm gonna take 20 of those and I'm gonna put them into this mosaic, as Alan described earlier on. Or maybe I'm gonna just take a bajillion of them and pixelate them and make a picture that's absolutely enormous from all of these things. And each time you remix a piece of work, then you have to add your name to it. You have to add your name to the trail of people that have remixed it. And if Cory then chooses the final remix, or some way down that chain, then all of the people that have been involved will take a cut of the proceeds. Does that make sense?
So
So
what we're ultimately going to do is like create a place where people can like see the other remixes that have been done. So you could start from one of Jonathan's original photos, or you can work off of someone else's remix. But when you do that, like we've been doing in ds106, you need to acknowledge that when you write it up on your site.
And you're getting it first. That's the other thing.
yeah. Before this goes out on the big wide internet, that's going out onto ds106. So we're really appreciate Jonathan's willing to bring this project to us. I'm excited about it. I'm ready. I haven't looked at the images yet, but we'll hope to have them up in the next day or two. So you'll have a chance.
Check them out. I did my best.
This is good stuff. He's a pro.
Figured out what I'm doing.
Hooray.
I feel like an overachiever now. But it will involve fabric, I promise.
Fantastic.
That's
well,
awesome.
I love the sound of that.
I was
to your heart's
I was hoping Nancy would say that because she is a sewing fabric expert.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's bring on the embroidery. Knock yourself out.
That might be my dead week project, actually, because I'm going to be here for a week doing nothing. But I have a different idea to start with.
That's very cool.
Well, if Cory likes it, he tends to stick things on Boing Boing, and then they get hundreds of thousands of hits. So the important thing to also do is to make sure that you have a version of this thing that you make on your site, so that we can point all the traffic back to you. It's key that you use this big audience to come back to you. It shouldn't be to my site, and it shouldn't be going to some, ds106 site. It's got to come back ultimately to you so people can find you, so they can hire you again. So remember, this is about a sustainable practice. It's about getting people to pay you to do what you love, right? So yeah. So if you make your applique blanket or whatever it is you're gonna make, then make sure there's a version of it that's viewable on a place where people can hire you directly afterwards.
All right. So not only does this count towards your grade, but you can get like money. You can make money.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Any other questions while we're here? Stony silence. Well,
I'm like writing ideas on my phone.
That's cool. I really appreciate the discussion. It's been great. It's been good. Mikhail was here for a little bit. Amber, I wish I could see you, man, but I like knowing that you're there.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I know. I know. Your video work last week was just tremendous. I had so much fun looking at it.
Oh, thanks. I saw you liked the Mars one yesterday.
I love Mars. It's just like being in Arizona.
Exactly why I put you there.
Very good. All right, so I am going to end the broadcast portion. If you have anything you need to yell at me off camera, you can do it there. Thank you, Brooke, Amber, Micaela, and Nancy for coming in, and of course to Jonathan for staying up late.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thanks.